I think that historically, the art of neighbors helping neighbors seems to be an excellent model for aging in community and aging in place. So I don't really see the model changing. Perhaps some of the things that we might offer would change. For example, 3 years ago, we weren't teaching Zoom, but now we are. But I think this model will stand the test of time. And hopefully, people will become more comfortable asking for support. I think that's the biggest obstacle to a village, is people saying they don't want to impose. And we say, ask away.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman, your co-host.
Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village SF. I'm your co-host, Lynn Winter-Gross. Next Village SF is a nonprofit providing older adults in the Northeast neighborhood of San Francisco with support to help age in place.
When older adults are asked where they want to live as they age, over 90% say they want to stay in their own homes. That's what we know and where we're most comfortable. But staying in our homes comes with challenges. How do we keep from getting lonely? Where can we find interesting activities, take classes, and equally important, get help when we need it?
To address these needs, the National Village movement was created more than 20 years ago for older adults who wanted to age in place. In other words, they want to live independently and on their own. Now, there are more than 300 independent village chapters around the country offering a wide variety of services for active adults.
Our guests today are from Next Village SF. Janet Crane is the founder and chair, and Jacqueline Jones is the executive director. Next Village SF is part of the Village movement that serves residents in the San Francisco area and is the sponsor of our podcast, Not Born Yesterday. Welcome, Janet and Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Janet, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell us why and how you decided to start a chapter of the Village movement, and what needs did you see that weren't met by other organizations?
Yes, I've always been aware since I was quite young that growing older had both wonderful positive opportunities and really serious challenges of loss and physical decline. And I've been part of senior support movements ever since high school. I hadn't really thought a lot about that until a friend, Joni Levy, and I were standing in a Safeway checkout line one day. And she said, "Did you read that article in the New York Times about Beacon Hill Village in Boston?" And I said, yes. Beacon Hill was the first village nationally and the model for much of what's gone since. So we looked at each other and said, what a good idea. And before we knew it, we were sitting down with friends and trying to decide how this village for the Northeast neighborhoods where we live would work. And we finally, after a couple of years, obtained our nonprofit status, our formal nonprofit status, in December 2009. So that's nearly 12 years ago. And we've been going strong ever since. So the mission of villages, the needs that we see are that people are often isolated and need to make more friends as their networks move away or pass away. And the village in general tries to engage adults in their seniors in their communities, keep them from being isolated and enjoy themselves, have a really enthusiastic life. And then when they need assistance, we can provide assistance with our volunteers for all kinds of things. So that's our mission. That's what the Village movement does. And what's special about it is it's very personal. We make friends with these people. This is not a bureaucracy. We're all part of this together, and people get to know their friends and neighbors with all sorts of encouragement. And that's what makes this different and special from any other organization, I think.
I personally am very glad you started it. I joined Next Village SF soon after I moved back to San Francisco, and it was a great way for me to meet people my age and people who had common interests. When I look at the weekly calendar, you have such a huge variety of programs, from hikes, bocce ball, money management, and improv classes. Jacqueline, how do you decide which programs to offer? There's so many that you're offering.
That's a great question, Lynn. One very cool thing about Next Village is that it's often member driven. Members call us with their requests for services, but they also reach out to us and say, hey, I'd like to learn about, or I could teach a class on, or I just got back from, and I'd love to share my photos. So a lot of what we do is member driven. The remainder of it, just we like to have fun and we like to learn. And so we just kind of put our heads together, and inspiration is often our guide.
Well, how did members' needs change during COVID? So many people were stuck in their homes and they couldn't socialize the way they used to. And I assume some of them were getting sick with COVID themselves. So how did Next Village step in then?
Well, another great question. And we're so happy that actually one member got COVID and she was in a facility. And then another member got COVID just recently. But other than that, we have not had instances of COVID throughout our entire membership. And one of the reasons for that, I believe, is that we really ramped up our services as soon as COVID hit. We started offering to do grocery shopping for people. We got their prescriptions for them. We helped them, safely get to their doctor's appointments. We delivered over 4,000 meals to people so they wouldn't have to go out. And we moved all of our classes to Zoom. And then we also helped people get computers that didn't have them, get internet that didn't have it, learn how to use Zoom so that they could stay connected and engaged. And then we also really further developed our friendly calling. So we have a high number of volunteers who are calling members to this day because they've connected to help keep folks engaged, and now they're friends. And so we're still doing a lot of friendly call-ins. And then we deepened our relationships with other community partners, like our neighborhood associations, who helped us, with delivery and unique programs and whatnot during the COVID.
Well, I know you have a lot of younger adults who are volunteering to help, and I assume those were some of the people that you were using for these tasks. But why do you think the younger people wanted to get involved?
Well, I can take that one.
Yeah, thanks, Janet.
Okay, I'll take that one. We have a lot of reasons, actually. Many people say that they loved their grandparents or love their grandparents, and their grandparents happen to be on the other side of the country. So this is a way to stay in touch with older people. We have a lot of networks, and networks ask each other, would they be interested in doing this? And their friends say yes, and then their friends say yes. And the neighborhood groups are really good at providing volunteers. So it's a kind of organic process, and it's been amazingly successful. We have something like, we've had between 120 and 170 active volunteers on the rolls, and we now have a fairly efficient way of soliciting them, whereby we let people know of a volunteer opportunity that's near their house. And if somebody answers, that's great, or we move out the next request the next day to a slightly wider diameter around the person who needs help. So we have a pretty efficient way of getting people to sign on for the tasks.
Jacqueline, do you see the mission of Next Village changing in the future, or you think you're right on top of things right now?
Well, I think that historically, the art of neighbors helping neighbors seems to be an excellent model for aging in community and aging in place. So I don't really see the model changing. Perhaps some of the things that we might offer would change. For example, 3 years ago, we weren't teaching Zoom, but now we are. But I think this model will stand the test of time, and hopefully people will become more comfortable asking for support. I think that's the biggest obstacle to a village, is people saying they don't want to impose. And we say, ask away. We had 2,400 service requests last year and almost 5,000 hours of service. So people seem to be getting the hang of it. And hopefully that evolves over time and people are more and more comfortable with that.
Janet, what if somebody lives in a community without a village movement? How do they do what you did? Just start one in a community.
Well, there's a lot of built wisdom about the village movement that's accumulated over the last 20 years. No two villages are the same. That's seen one village, you've seen one village, but there is a group of the National Village Movement, which is a coalition of villages which have accumulated statistics and models and binders of how villages work. So I think that would be the first place to look, the National Village Movement, and then to reach out to the individual villages. And villages are all too happy to share their experience.
How are individual villages funded? Is there paid staff? Are there membership dues? How do things get started?
Well, as you said, I've seen one village, you've seen one village. So some villages are volunteer-based, some have paid staff, some have support, rather few yet, have support from their local governments. We in San Francisco are incredibly lucky that our city, through the Department of Disability and Aging Services, has provided funding for us, which has allowed us to grow over 12 years. We're very lucky that way. Not many villages have that ability. But villages manage, if they're all volunteer. They don't do as much as a village like ours where we can afford staff, but they still provide services. We now have 3 full-time and 1 half-time staff person, which I would never would have believed was possible 12 years ago. So San Francisco is a city who is sensitive to seniors and their needs, and that is wonderful, and we thank them every day. I'd like to just add something to Jacqueline's description that programs are member-generated. Because they're member-generated, we have an enormously wide set of programs. We have programs where people get to interact and learn from each other. We have programs that help motivate and inspire people to do things or understand and plan for the future, like our tech teaching, our financial programs. We have social events, happy hours, lunches, health and fitness events, chair yoga, meditation, walking groups, holiday events, Dia de los Muertos, Valentine's Day, year end, and community in San Francisco history has been a recent one that we've added, where we talk about the history of North Beach or the history of Italian restaurants, which was a really fun one recently. So they're extraordinarily broad, and that's one of the great attractions to people, I think.
Jacqueline, is there anything else that we've missed that you want to tell us about Next Village? There's so much to talk about.
There is. And one of the things that we'd like to commend you two on is that you came to us and said, we'd like to do a podcast. And we said, that sounds great. And here you are, all these many shows later, putting out this professional, well-received podcast and bringing great ideas to people. It's an extension of what we do at Next Village. It's an example of how our programming has changed and evolved. And we just couldn't be more proud of what you're doing. So I think if people want to learn more about us and perhaps bring their ideas to us, they can look us up on the web at www.nextvillagesf.org. Happy to answer your questions.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing the story of the village movement. I think people who were confused about it, who often think it's a apartment complex or something like that, we really appreciate your spreading the word about the village movement. Our guests today were Janet Crane and Jacqueline Jones of Next Village SF. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here at Not the Born Yesterday, we have some news you can use today about new devices to help you perform tasks and still enjoy independent living. While waiting out the pandemic, many older adults have lost the mobility that they had more than 2 years ago. Some everyday activities like reaching a high shelf or just performing routine tasks have become a bit more difficult. Here are some new devices that can help all of us, but especially those with mobility issues.
Have you ever seen a supermarket employee or a bookstore worker grab something that you want from a high shelf? If you are less mobile and possibly even shorter than you were 2 years ago, an extension grabber may be a great tool to add to your home. They're lightweight, they're easy to use handles, and it can mean you don't have to use a ladder or a wobbly chair to get something from a high shelf. How about a battery-operated jar opener? This is a must-have item for anyone with arthritis or pain in their hands. It effortlessly opens cans of any size. Just put it on top of the can and push a button.
In other episodes of the podcast, we've talked about falling. Reduced mobility often means an increased risk of slipping or falling in the shower. This can be greatly reduced by adding a shower bench or chair where one can shower in a seated position. Most feature non-slip bottoms and a sturdy hand brace for extra security.
Have you considered remote control window blinds? Sometimes we can't reach high enough to pull the blinds down, or we can't stretch over furniture to reach the cord. Remote control window treatments let us operate blinds with a push of a button.
And how about motion detection light bulbs inside your home? You probably have them already at your front door or on the driveway, but what a great idea for navigating from the bed to the bathroom in the dark. Motion detector bulbs turn on automatically when light is needed by detecting nearby motion and remain on for 30 seconds. Put one in your bedroom and stress about getting up at night should disappear. And don't forget the old tried and true helpful tool you already have in your home. For those who've lost hand strength, a shoe horn makes it so much easier to slip into shoes without pushing or wiggling. Check out some of the devices you may discover, and you'll see you're still quite independent.
That's our podcast for today. Our guests were Janet Crane and Jacqueline Jones of Next Village SF. You can learn more about Next Village SF at www.nextvillagesf.org. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and our engineer is Jason Dahlstedt. And thanks to you for listening. We would love to hear what you want us to discover and discuss. Please contact us at notbornyesterday@nextvillagesf.org. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.